coming to this is the latest map. How many states are there in India? I heard there was a question in some of your interviews that they ask you how many states. Anybody?
28.
28.
28 or 29?
28.
28.
More than 29 before.
Jammu and Kashmir was reorganized.
Okay. And how many union territories?
8 union territories.
8.
Which is the 8th one? My question was, which is the latest union territory?
Jammu and Kashmir.
My question was, which are the latest union territories? And some said Dadra and Nagar Haveli. I did not get the relevance there. So you only said that these states were converted into UTs. So the latest would be Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, right? Do I make sense to you people? The latest
Yes, ma'am.
additions would be these states, this state now being a union territory. That's what I wanted to highlight, simply put. So now you have 28 states and 8 UTs. That's it. That's what I wanted to mention. And that's after the Jammu and Kashmir reorganization, of course. Now, before that, of course, you must be knowing the creation of Telangana. Ek thoda aur piche jaye to. Telangana was a part of Andhra Pradesh and then was, of course, that you know that it was separated out of Andhra Pradesh and then you had Telangana. Very quickly on what are states and what are union territories. Often बहुत basic question है, but कई बार लोग गलत कर देते हैं इसको. Union territory नाम ही अपने आप में समझ में आ जाता है. What do you mean by union territory? Territory of the union. A territory which is directly controlled by the union is called union territory. States are simple. Rajasthan is a state which has its own assembly, which has its own CM. There's a governor that works through the legislative procedures. But union territory is the territory of the union, where you see a lot of interferences from the union in the functioning of that territory. Take, for example, Delhi. Delhi is a union territory, although it is one of those union territories which has its own assembly. By the way, on that note, I must mention there are few union territories in India which have their own assembly. One of it is Delhi, and one of it is Puducherry, and now the recent one is Jammu and Kashmir. ये तीन ऐसी जगह है जहां पर you have an assembly. Otherwise, UTs do not have an assembly. Simply put, they don't have a state legislature. But in Delhi, you'll see there is a CM as well. But then there is a lieutenant governor also. If you look at Delhi, why does Delhi keep on asking for statehood? Because police is not with them. And that makes it a little complicated. Police is at the hands of the center. That shows that there is a lot of interference in the working of the union territory. So if they ask you, what is a union territory? A territory of the union. Simply put, a place where you see interferences from the center. Some are completely governed by the center. Take, for example, Lakshadweep. President would just send an administrator and Lakshadweep would function. You won't have its own assembly, or you won't have its own chief minister to function. There are only 3 union territories as of now which have an assembly, and 2 of them obviously also functional, that is Delhi and Puducherry. That's why you see all the conflict in Puducherry. More on it later, but that's just to give you a brief idea of how this works. There are some states, as pehle bhi kisi ne bataya tha, who have bicameral legislature. Simply means that they have 2 houses. There is a legislative assembly and there is a legislative council. Hindi mein kai baar aap sunte hain Vidhan Sabha or Vidhan Parishad, that is assembly and council. Just like how you have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, but majority of the states do not have a legislative assembly, legislative council. They just function with one house, that is legislative assembly. So any questions so far? Anything that's bothering you so far?
Ma'am, one question is there.
Yeah, please.
Why this Puducherry, Delhi and Jammu Kashmir got this, I would say, government, why not other UTs, and why not, if Jammu Kashmir got, then why not Ladakh?
Perfect. Okay, so I'll try to answer that. The reasons are not common. Okay, there are different reasons for different stuff. First, let's talk about Delhi. As you know, Delhi is the capital. So you couldn't really treat it like all other UTs. It was just not possible कि आप Delhi को treat करें as all other states, all other UTs. So that very reason, it was the power capital, it was the center. You could not manage it only through the union, and therefore through a long struggle, Delhi got its legislative assembly. Talking about Puducherry, I don't know how many of you know this, but Puducherry is a place that is not in one place. Now, I don't know whether you'll understand what I mean, but if you go and search Puducherry on Google, you will find Puducherry in 4 states. It is scattered. One Puducherry is the Puducherry. Some part of it, that is called Karaikal, is in Tamil Nadu. Some part of it is in Kerala, that is called Mahe. And together, and one part of it you will find in Yanam, that is in Andhra. So there are some portions in Andhra, there are some portions in Kerala, some in Tamil Nadu, and then Puducherry itself. So it's a scattered union territory. It's not at one place. Uska bhi ek past hai actually. These were French colonies. So since they were French colonies, they have a very distinct culture, and government did not wanted to disturb that, and they wanted to keep their identity, and that's how Puducherry was formed. Now you would understand that since it was scattered, since the population was large, they wanted their own sovereign identity. I'm sorry. That's how they decided that they will also be given a legislative assembly. That's the story of Delhi, and that's the story of Puducherry. Talking of there were talks that both Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir should get constituent assembly. Let's say they may have a debate over it in future. So if you ask me, what are the parameters? There are 2-3 parameters on what basis it was decided. Lakshadweep bahut chota sa, you don't really need a lot of management there. Andaman Nicobar Island could be managed. So the major reason is these particular territories could be managed without an assembly, whereas if you talk about places like Delhi due to its population and being the territory, being the national capital, Puducherry due to its scattered location and their identity, and Jammu and Kashmir, of course, itna kuch le liya to kuch to dena hi tha. I look at it that way. So that's the reason. There's no one reason actually. All these have different reasons for having an assembly. It all started with they being same, but gradually things changed. तो अभी आपको पता होगा, Delhi is also asking for statehood. Long demand hai unki. So tomorrow they may also, rise up to the standard of being a state as well. Whose question was
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
Are you satisfied? Are you fine with that?
Ma'am, I couldn't understand the point that
Yeah.
why Ladakh has not been given.
So
Like if
there's
we
a
look at
political.
area-wise.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I
You
would take
say.
it as a political. I don't want to be politically incorrect here, but there is no factual reason for it. There are more political reasons than factual reasons, actually. So you may see in future there may be coming of a constituent assembly, coming of a legislative assembly there. You may see it. From the lens that I see it looks like more of a political thing than any factual thing. And then also there were quotings that there's not much population. The sentiments need to be taken into control there. And Ladakh, of course, if you look at the reorganization, this particular area seemed to be in favor of it. So if you look at that way, also उनको कोई concession देने की as such जरूरत नहीं थी. From where I look at it. हाँ, 2-3 साल बाद शायद perspective और clear हो जाएगा कि ऐसे क्यों हुआ. But as of now, I see it more as a political decision than any other decision.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, understood.
Ma'am, is there any, can you throw some light on Chandigarh? Because I know it's capital for 2 states and also UT. Like, can you give me some on who takes control of that particular city?
So I'll tell you. So if you look at Punjab and Haryana, Punjab was, as you know, one state, and there was a very dialectical difference in how they spoke, how their cultures were, and they were for a very long time demand for a separate state in the present day Haryana, the present day Haryana that you look at. Now Chandigarh was the capital of Punjab, the United Punjab. Now if you look at Chandigarh, it is one of the prime cities of this area, and aapne shayad padha bhi hoga, it's a planned city. A French Le Corbusier was called and he was asked to plan it, and it's a very, very beautiful place and very nicely crafted. All centers of administrative buildings are in Chandigarh. So ab jab ye decide hua that Haryana would be separated out of Punjab, and there would be 2 states now, there would be Punjab and Haryana. So the question was, where would Chandigarh go? And neither Haryana was ready to leave Chandigarh, nor Punjab was ready to leave Chandigarh. And who would be ready to leave Chandigarh? Because again, prime city, planned city, beautiful city, tourism aa raha hai, and there was no reason why Punjab would leave it or Haryana would leave it. तो वो matter solve ही नहीं हो रहा था कि ये चंडीगढ़ जाएगा कहाँ, would it go to Punjab or would it go to Haryana? तो एक solution निकाला गया. Decide ये हुआ that Chandigarh would be made a UT. That is, Chandigarh in itself is a union territory, but Chandigarh would be used as capital for both Punjab and Haryana. Now you may ask me, ma'am, ये काम कैसे करता है? See, it simply means capital होता क्या है? What do you understand by capital? Capital is simply a place where the administration functions. So India ka administration functions from Delhi. So you have the parliament there, you have the prime minister living there, you have the president there. That makes it the capital. तो पंजाब चंडीगढ़ अगर आप जाएंगे तो you will see the administrative buildings of Punjab also. You'll see the administrative buildings of Haryana also. And Chandigarh itself is governed by center. So it's a very, very complicated, yet very interesting functionality where Chandigarh is a UT, that is, it is governed by the center. At the same time, it is a place from where Punjab is governed and from where Haryana is governed. And that's why you call it as the joint capital of Punjab and Haryana. क्योंकि कोई और solution ही नहीं आ रहा था, दोनों छोड़ना ही नहीं चाह रहे थे. तो बोला ठीक है, इसको UT बना देते हैं और joint capital बना देते हैं. So that's the story.
Yes, ma'am. So it will, like I heard that it will be taken care by Punjab governor, right? Like mostly the operations in the city will be handled by Punjab's governor. Am I correct with that, Lord?
Are you talking about the speculations that were there recently? Because there's no statement as such. I think what you mean is there was a debate going around that perhaps the city is not able to, kind of function due to disruptions from both sides, and it was said that the rulings of the governor would prevail in certain matters. I think, are you talking about that? Is there some point?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I'm not sure about it, but I read it somewhere like Punjab.
Maybe you can share it with me. Yeah, sorry.
Actually, the governor of Punjab is the administrator of Chandigarh.
Okay, in that context, fine. So administrators are people who are sent by president, and there can be joint administrators also. I'll tell you, this functions like this. Let's say somebody is a governor of Gujarat. That person can also be made administrator of Daman and Diu. So you are the governor also of one state, and you can be, together with being the governor, be the administrator also. So that's what your answer is. I think that's what your question is. A person can be joint governor of two states also. You can be a governor and an administrator also. तो usually ऐसे ही होता है कि जो उसके पास की UT होती है, उसके ही governor को administrator की additional responsibility दे देते हैं. For example, you see Kerala के लक्षद्वीप को दे देते हैं कई बार. That's how it functions. Okay, so citizenship पूरे साल बहुत बात हुई है. I'm not going into the details of CAA, but yeah. I would like to mention that we have single citizenship. Many people do not understand the idea of single citizenship, but I made it very clear in the beginning. It simply means you are the citizen of the country. There is no state citizenship. That's why you have freedom of movement. So you get your bona fide certificates. Bona fide certificates just prove that you are the resident of that state. That does not mean if you have to move all over again to Madhya Pradesh, you need to acquire the citizenship of Madhya Pradesh. Nothing like it. That's why you see people from Chhattisgarh can also give the PCS exam of Rajasthan, or people from Rajasthan can give the PCS exam of Uttar Pradesh. Now, talking of citizenship, we have an entire rule book, we have an entire segment dedicated to citizenship, which talks in detail about who would be the citizens of India, how can one acquire citizenship. By the way, India does not permit double citizenship, which simply means that if you take up citizenship of any other country in the world, you'll automatically lose your Indian citizenship. So you can't be citizen of India and be citizen of some other country. There are countries of the world which permit that, but not India. So I was telling you very clearly, it mentions with dates who would be the citizen of India, how would citizenship be determined. Let's say you want to become a citizen, then what are the rules? And by the way, to be the president of India, it is written in the constitution that you have to be a citizen, but it is not written that you have to be born in India. Same goes for prime minister. If you go to USA, I mean, I'm sure many of you must have watched some series, so you know this. But if you go to USA, you don't only need to be the citizen, you should be somebody who is born in USA. The same logic does not go for India. You just need to be the citizen. You need not be born in India. So citizenship acquired bhi ho sakti hai. That's why जब debate चल रही थी around Sonia Gandhi, can Sonia Gandhi become prime minister? Could have been the prime minister? Yes. By law, nobody could have stopped her because she was very much having the citizenship. What stopped her was it was not in very a populist move if she would have been shown as the face of being the prime minister. But if you go by the law, nobody could have stopped her because in India, the only requirement is citizenship. It is nowhere written that you should be born in India. There are exact rules for renunciations also, that if you want to give up citizenship, your citizenship can be terminated also. There is also provision for acquiring citizenship. So the constitution is very clear on that front. Now, fundamental rights. Of course, it's not you people don't have to write UPSC, so I'll not go into the details, but as a citizen, you should know at least that there are 6 of them and they are fundamental. Now, why is the constitution calling them fundamental? Because they have been listed in the constitution as being the most important rights that a citizen must have. So aisa nahi, these are the only rights we have. We have ordinary legal rights also, but they are enforced by ordinary law. You don't quote the constitution for them. But in our constitution, these 6 rights are guaranteed by the constitution itself. And let's say somebody snatches your ordinary rights, takes away your ordinary rights. You can't approach Supreme Court for it. But if somebody takes away your fundamental rights, इतनी freedom है कि आप directly Supreme Court के पास जा सकते हैं. You can actually directly approach Supreme Court if any of your fundamental rights are violated. I would like you to look at the screen. It seems very simple, but we often forget that which are the 6 fundamental rights: freedom, equality, right against exploitation, freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 rights that you must know. Before that, we also had right to property, but of course, it was moved from here and it was made a constitutional right simply because we had to implement certain welfare policies, like the abolition of zamindari system. So we, had to put some limit. हमें इससे निकालना जरूरी था अगर हमें वो welfare measures लेकर आने थे. Now, some people often ask me, can fundamental rights be amended? They're so fundamental. Can they be changed? Can they be amended? The very fact that right to property was moved from here proves that fundamental rights can be amended. In fact, I'll give you a very simple answer to that. I hope you would understand and I'll make sense to you. You can stop me if I do not. Any and every part of the constitution can be amended. If you look at it, ऐसा कोई पार्ट नहीं है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का जिसको आप अमेंड नहीं कर सकते. मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ, सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहता है. The only thing is, it should not violate the basic structure of the constitution. Now, to put it into perspective, what is a basic structure? See, it is not defined anywhere in the constitution. The court itself decides. Supreme Court gives the definition of what would be the part of the basic structure and what would be not. So if you tomorrow pick up right to freedom and you want to remove it from fundamental rights, you cannot. Because according to Supreme Court, it is a part of the basic structure. So simple answer hai, if somebody asks you, can the fundamental rights be amended? Please remember, any and every part of the constitution can be amended. Any and every part. And I mean it. तरीके अलग-अलग हो सकते हैं, but आप कुछ भी बदल सकते हैं. The simple thing is, you should not be violating the basic structure. What do you mean by basic structure? The fundamentals, the key pillars on which your constitution is based. Another question can be, what is this basic structure, ma'am? Is it written somewhere? No. Who defines it? The judiciary. It has a list of features which are a part of basic structure. Tomorrow it may want to expand it also. Tomorrow there may be some additions to basic structure also. So can fundamental rights be amended? Yes. They are protected, by the way, by the judiciary and of course by the Supreme Court. In case of a violation, you can directly approach the Supreme Court. They are protected by the constitution itself. Constitution खुद बोलता है, right to constitutional remedies. मतलब अगर इनमें से कोई भी fundamental right violate होगा, आप कोर्ट के पास जा सकते हैं. You can approach the court. Who can violate it? Maybe legislature wants to violate it. Maybe executive wants to violate it. Any which way, you have a protection there. Now, one more point I would like to highlight here. None of these are absolute rights. Very important to know this. What do I mean? None of them are absolute. In सब पर कोई ना कोई reasonable restrictions है. So let's take for example right to freedom. You can't give a hate speech, right? You can't give a hate speech. If you're giving a hate speech, there would be legal provisions for it. So right to freedom of speech and expression to hai, but uspe bhi restrictions hai. And constitution ne kehta hai reasonable restrictions. So none of these rights are absolute. Please remember that. There are certain restrictions or the other. And as I said, they are 6 in number. Might help sometime. Am I making sense to everybody? Any queries so far? कुछ भी आपको लग रहा है पूछ सकते हैं here. Any questions?
Ma'am, the right to privacy is also a fundamental right
Yes.
now, I
Yes.
think.
Yes. So there's Article 21, which is called Right to Life and Personal Liberty. I'll try to put it this way. Constitution gives us certain set of rights. To लिख दिया right to freedom. Then there are sub-clauses. Sub-clauses, right to freedom of movement, right to freedom of speech and expression, F point. So there are various sub-clauses to this. And time and again, judiciary can expand the scope of these rights. Like for example, आपने सुना होगा right to education. Through an amendment, right to education was also made a fundamental right. So that's what I said, that fundamental rights can be amended. You are absolutely correct. Right to privacy has been included under Article 21. And in fact, abhi to ek nayi debate bhi chal rahi hai, which is called right to dissent. In fact, Supreme Court has given verdict on right to dissent also. That do we have a right to dissent? To din pehle I was reading very good article on this. So yes, right to privacy is very much in fact declared by Supreme Court long back in 2017. That it is a part of fundamental right, and to be very specific, it is part of Article 21, which is right to life and personal liberty. So privacy is considered as your part of your personal liberty. तो ये कैसे होता है मैं ये बता दूं आपको. सुप्रीम कोर्ट टाइम एंड अगेन फंडामेंटल राइट्स की स्कोप को डिफाइन कर सकती है. इट कैन टेल यू व्हाट डू यू मीन व्हेन यू से लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी. So they said even right to privacy is a part of right to life and personal liberty, and that's why you see it was put under Article 21. So yeah, there was one more thing that I wanted to say about fundamental rights. Can somebody remind me? No, I think I covered it all. Yeah, just remember that there are 6 in number, and you find them in Part 3 of the Constitution. I don't think they'll ask you in that detail, but doesn't harm to know. Okay. Directive principles of state policy. Abhi ye kya hai? See, fundamental rights are set of rights which are given to citizens. And they work as a protection against the arbitrary action of the state. So, कल को अगर state आपकी right to equality लेना चाहता है, तो वो उसे रोक रहा है लेने से. It is trying to stop it. The fundamental rights are trying to stop the state from taking away your freedom or kind of exploiting you. So, if you look at those rights, they have a negative connotation. They're stopping the state from doing certain things. And if the state still does it, you can, they are very much justiciable. You can approach the court for it. But directive principles are a little different. So I'll tell you uska origin kaise hua, ye aaya kaise. So there were so many things that the constitution framers wanted to do. But they realized that India is not ready for these things as of now. Let's take, for example, Uniform Civil Code. What's simple? Uniform Civil Code. Now, do you know what is Uniform Civil Code, or do you want me to explain it? Very quickly मुझे बता दो ताकि हम time का भी ध्यान रख ले थोड़ा. Shall I tell you very quickly? Okay, I'm assuming that I have to. So see, there are 2 set of laws. One are the criminal code, one is the criminal code, and one is the civil code. Criminal code is simple. I murder somebody. Let's say I'm a practicing Hindu. Somebody is a practicing Muslim. I kill somebody with same brutality as the one who was a Muslim did. Both of us would be put under bars. We will have the same kind of a punishment. Same laws will function. So India में criminal set of laws सबके लिए common है. But civil set of laws सबके लिए common नहीं है. What do I mean by civil set of laws? Let's say marriage, divorce, adoption. So we have separate set of laws. तो आपने सुना होगा that somebody who is practicing Islam can marry more than once because they are governed by Islamic laws. Then there is a Special Marriages Act also. वो एक अलग बात है. But in civil matters, we don't have uniform code. That means people are not treated uniformly in terms of civil matters. There's only one state in India, by the way, which has uniform civil code. Anybody who knows which state in India has uniform civil code? Anyone? The place where our plans often get cancelled. बहुत बार बनते पर कभी जाना नहीं हो पाता.
Goa.
Goa. Yeah. So Goa is the only state in India which has uniform civil code. वहां पर civil matters में भी distinction नहीं है. So you are Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, you have to follow same set of religious laws also. The only state in India. We wanted to go for UCCs, but if you look at it, it's not a bad idea. If you look at it, there should be uniform laws. But it was not possible at the time of independence, simply because religion was a very, very heated matter at that particular time. You could not have brought about uniform civil code. So decide kya hua? Let's make certain directive principles of state policy. To put it very simply, these were certain principles that were directed to the future state. कि आप आगे आने वाले समय में ये करिएगा. In coming times, you can perhaps bring about uniform civil code. So what are directive principles of state policy? They are simply guidelines. Guidelines to whom? Guidelines to the state. For what? That what can perhaps they do in future. Future में वो क्या क्या कर सकते हैं? इसके लिए guideline बनाई गई. There is a long list of directive principles which have been written in the Indian Constitution, and it was said that they should be followed by the state in future. Now I must tell you, they are non-justiciable. इसका मतलब क्या है कि कल को अगर कोई state नहीं कर पा रहा है, it is not able to work on any of the DPSPs. You can't go to court for it. You can't go to court and say that they did not bring about UCC, Uniform Civil Code, or for that matter, they are not prohibiting consumption of alcohol. It is one of the directive principles, by the way, that is prohibition of consumption of alcohol. So you can't go to state and say कि नहीं कर रहे आप prohibit. You can't go to judiciary for it, simply because they are plain and simple guidelines. They are not justiciable. You cannot approach court for these. इसमें से जो सबसे debated है, that is the Uniform Civil Code. I'll share some articles on it. You can read it. In various interviews, they ask you, do you think India should have a Uniform Civil Code? Or do you think Uniform Civil Code would be successful in India? Will the people take it? By the way, what do you think? How many of you think it's a good idea to have a Uniform Civil Code? Did you understand when I said?
Understood.
Okay. So anyone who feels ki hone chahiye, they can ask you this question. Yeah, this is a very famous question in all interviews. Let's not make it a monologue. Come on. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, please go
Ma'am,
ahead.
right now, I don't think it will be more, there's such a division based on religion. There's so much, so I don't think it is the right time, but in future, sure, it will be beneficial.
Okay. Anybody who believes we should have it as soon as possible? So I believe you'll be quiet when this question will come to you. Shreyaj, can I hear from you on that?
Ma'am, I think the Uniform Civil Code kind of clashes with the freedom to profess religion. So I think every religion has its own civil code and how to operate in civil society. And right now, if we bring it in, so this might be a clash between the two portions of the Constitution itself. And moreover, the people are not ready for it, particularly due to the religious divide that has always been in the country.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll just give you a very tailor-made answer that you can quote, that may be very balanced one if one of these questions is asked. So what I believe is it would be very difficult, as you said, to implement UCC in the first place. People won't take it very nicely and there can be huge uproar on it. So the only way we can have UCC is from within the religion. So only these religious bodies, if they try to bring about some changes within the religion itself, then perhaps there can be something of the idea of UCC. Otherwise, it's very difficult to bring about UCC in India, simply because of multiple religious laws that have been existing so far, and also because they clash with each other, as rightly pointed by Shreyansh. So there is the right to freedom of religion, which can be quoted. Then again, there can be some positive reforms which have been done by Indian judiciary, and for this you can even quote the triple talaq matter. But again, that's very personal. I believe it was a good decision, not going into all other decisions. Kuch अच्छे भी रहे हैं, कुछ बुरे भी रहे हैं. But yeah, you may quote this answer that, the reforms have to come from within the religion, then they may be imposed by the state. So that was about directive principles of state policy. Just remember, they are guidelines. They are not justiciable. You cannot approach court for it. If they are fulfilled, good. If not, nothing can be done about it. To fulfill them, you'll need a law. You have to bring about changes or perhaps some amendment.